What if I told you the boys didn't actually end with Homelander's death? Yeah, technically he's gone, brutally by the way, but the real villain of the show might still be alive and stronger than ever. And honestly, that's what makes The Boys Season 5 finale so disturbing. So let's talk about that ending, because there's a lot to unpack here. Homelander finally losing everything, Butcher crossing the line for good, Hughie making the hardest choice of his life, Ryan's future, Stan Edgar's terrifying comeback, and why the final scene basically tells us this cycle is never really over. Welcome back to your nerdy show. I'm your host, Spoiler Master.
Homelander, the world's most prominent superhero, was killed today.
Homelander's death explained. All right, first things first, Homelander's death, because wow, what a way to go. The craziest part is that Homelander didn't really lose because someone was stronger than him. He lost because, deep down, he finally realized Ryan was right about him all along. Think about that moment during the speech. Homelander sees the word father on the teleprompter, and suddenly everything starts crashing into his head at once. Soldier Boy rejecting him, Ryan calling him out, the fear of being alone forever. And Ryan absolutely destroyed him emotionally earlier in the episode. He tells Homelander, straight to his face, that forcing people to fear him doesn't make him a god. It just makes him lonely. And if there's one thing Homelander has always been terrified of, it's loneliness. Not death, not losing power, loneliness. That's why Anthony Starr's performance here is honestly genius. You can literally see Homelander unraveling in real time. He realizes Ryan's probably right, that no matter how powerful he becomes, he'll never actually be loved. So what does he do? He doubles down. He goes completely off script and starts terrifying people even more because fear is the only thing he knows how to control anymore. But here's the tragedy. Fear can force obedience, but it can't create love. And that realization completely breaks him. Then comes the final confrontation in the Oval Office. Butcher, Kimiko, Ryan, the three people most connected to Homelander's downfall. And honestly, the depowering scene might be the most satisfying moment in the entire series. Because for the first time ever, Homelander becomes human, no laser eyes. No invulnerability, no god complex protecting him anymore. Just a terrified man begging for mercy on live television while the entire world watches. That's poetic justice right there. The man who spent his entire life acting like a god dies looking painfully human. And Butcher killing him with a crowbar. Oh, that's perfect. Not some epic superhero battle, not a giant explosion, just raw hatred finally reaching its endpoint. But here's where the finale gets really interesting, because Homelander dying doesn't actually solve the problem. If anything, it creates a new one. Hughie killed Butcher. And that brings us to Butcher. I think the saddest thing about Butcher's story is that he technically achieved everything he wanted and still ended up completely empty. For years, his entire existence revolved around killing Homelander. That was his purpose, his reason to wake up every morning, his obsession. But once Homelander dies, what's left? Nothing. Becca's gone. Ryan rejects him. Tara dies. The boys disband. There's this horrible emotional emptiness surrounding Butcher in the finale. And I think the show was telling us something really important here. Revenge can keep you alive, but it can't help you live. And that's exactly what happened to Butcher. The scary thing is, by the end, he and Homelander aren't even that different anymore. Homelander was consumed by power. Butcher was consumed by revenge. Different motivations, same outcome. Both became monsters. And Ryan calling Butcher out earlier in the season completely shattered him emotionally, because Ryan basically says, "You're not a good person either." And deep down, Butcher knows that's true. That farm dream he had, living peacefully with Ryan and Tara, that was probably the last tiny piece of humanity left inside him. But once Ryan walks away and Tara dies, that dream disappears forever. So Butcher does the only thing he still knows how to do, destroy. And releasing the soup virus through Vought Tower's sprinkler system is honestly one of the darkest things he's ever attempted, because at that point, he's not targeting villains anymore. He's targeting every soup, good or bad, innocent or guilty. That's genocide. And the person who realizes this first is Hughie. Now this is why Hughie's role in the finale matters so much. For the entire series, Hughie has basically been Butcher's moral anchor. The guy constantly trying to stop everyone from becoming as bad as the people they hate. That's why the canary comparison earlier in the season matters. Hughie still has empathy, still has humanity, still believes people can be saved. So when he realizes what Butcher's about to do, he goes after him alone. And honestly, that scene at Vought Tower is heartbreaking, because you can tell Butcher almost wants Hughie to understand him, like he's hoping Hughie will say, "Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe they all deserve to die." But Hughie can't do that, because unlike Butcher, Hughie never let hatred completely define him. And then comes that final moment. Butcher's about to activate the sprinklers, and suddenly, He sees Lenny and Hughie, his little brother, the one truly innocent person in his life, and for just 1 second, Butcher hesitates. I think that hesitation is important because it proves there was still a tiny fragment of humanity left inside him after all, but it's too late. Hughie shoots him, and honestly, I think Hughie killing Butcher was unavoidable. Not because he wanted to, because he had to. That's what makes the scene tragic. Hughie saves the world by killing the man who basically shaped his entire life. And weirdly enough, I think Butcher knew it would end this way. Adopts Ryan. Now let's talk about Ryan because his future might actually be the most important part of the finale. Ryan choosing to help depower Homelander is huge. That's the moment he fully rejects his father's ideology. But what I love is that the show doesn't suddenly turn Ryan into some perfect superhero either. He's still traumatized, still confused, still dangerous. He's just choosing a different path. And adopting Ryan honestly makes perfect sense. Out of everyone in The Boys, has always represented stability and families. Even when the world around him was chaos, he kept trying to hold on to some sense of normal life. That's exactly what Ryan needs. Not another mentor teaching him violence. Not another father figure manipulating him. Actual family. And seeing Ryan at and Monique's private ceremony felt surprisingly hopeful for this show. Like maybe Ryan finally has a chance to become something better than Homelander or Butcher. Now, there's also the Zoe setup. The show definitely hinted at something between Ryan and Zoe earlier in the season. And honestly, that could become really important later because Zoe and Ryan are basically children shaped by monsters trying not to become monsters themselves. That parallel feels intentional. And if the Boys universe continues with spin-offs, which it definitely will, I wouldn't be shocked if Ryan and Zoe become central characters moving forward. Kimiko fulfills Frenchie's dying wish. Meanwhile, Kimiko's ending might actually be the most emotional one in the finale, because unlike everyone else, her ending is built around grief instead of victory. That Marseille scene hit hard. She's sitting there quietly beside the water with the dog Frenchie talked about, trying to live the life they dreamed of together. And honestly, that's devastating in the most beautiful way possible. Frenchie's gone, but Kimiko is keeping his dream alive anyway. The Bernedoodle detail especially hurts because it makes the dream feel so small and human. Not fame, not power, not saving the world. Just a quiet life near the water with children and a dog. That's all they wanted, and they never got to have it together. But Kimiko choosing to stay in Marseille anyway shows that she's finally allowing herself peace instead of violence, which is honestly huge for her character. Hughie and Annie start a life together. Now let's move to Hughie and Annie because this ending surprised me the most. Not because it was shocking, because it was normal. And after 5 seasons of chaos, normality is probably the happiest ending possible in this universe. They're running Hughie's old family store together. Annie's pregnant and naming the baby Robin, that's honestly perfect. Because Robin's death started this entire story. Without that moment, Hughie never joins the boys, never meets Annie, never changes. So naming their child Robin feels like the show coming full circle emotionally. But here's the detail I really loved. Hughie turning down Bob Singer's offer. That matters so much. Because old Hughie probably would have accepted immediately. He would have convinced himself he could fix the system. But now, he understands the cost. He knows that power corrupts people, that violence changes people, that once you step back into that world, you start losing pieces of yourself. So instead, he chooses Annie, family, peace, a normal life. And yet, they're still helping people. That police scanner inside the store tells us they haven't stopped caring. Annie still uses her powers to save lives. The difference is she's doing it on her own terms now. No costume, no Vought branding, no corporate machine controlling her, just helping people because she genuinely wants to. That's probably the healthiest version of heroism this universe has ever shown. Stan Edgar is back. But then, the finale hits us with its most terrifying reveal. Stan Edgar. Because if Homelander was the monster we could see, Edgar is the monster we can't escape. And Giancarlo Esposito absolutely steals every scene he's in here. His entire speech earlier in the season about supply and demand, that was the real thesis statement of The Boys. He basically tells something horrifying. You can kill Homelander, you can destroy Vought, but you cannot destroy the system that created them. And he's right. That's the scary part. Superheroes are just products. If Homelander disappears, capitalism will simply create another Homelander, another Seven, another monster people can market and monetize. And Edgar understands this better than anyone. That's why his return at the end feels so chilling, because while everyone else was fighting personal battles, Edgar was thinking long term. He survived because he knew the machine would eventually need him again. And honestly, the finale basically confirms the cycle is going to continue forever. That's why Butcher's story becomes tragic in hindsight, because he thought killing Homelander would fix everything. But Homelander was never the root problem. He was a symptom. The real villain is the system itself. Vought. Corporate greed, the monetization of heroism, the endless need to turn power into profit. And the cigar scene subtly reinforces that idea too. Butcher and the team smoking Edgar's cigars. That's symbolic. Even while trying to destroy the machine, they became part of it, which honestly feels like the show commenting on itself too. The Boys started as satire making fun of giant superhero franchises, and then became a giant franchise itself. Spin-offs, expanded universe shows, merchandise, the very thing it mocked. And honestly, that self-awareness is kind of brilliant. By the end of the finale, The Boys leaves us with one massive question. Can the cycle ever truly end? Or will the world just keep creating new Homelanders forever? And that's why I think this ending works so well. It's brutal, messy, bittersweet, but weirdly realistic, because evil rarely disappears completely. It just changes form. Our nerdy thoughts. Anyway, those are my thoughts on The Boys Season 5 ending. Do you think Hugh was right to kill Butcher? Do you think Ryan will become a real hero someday? Or eventually turn into another Homelander? And honestly, do you think Stan Edgar was the true villain of the entire series? Let me know down in the comments because I genuinely want to hear your theories. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more ending explained videos, breakdowns, and theories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
No, what the heck, I'll laugh anyway.